Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Des, and I'm here with the author, Kamaria. And we're super excited because this is our May author interview. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So feel free to comment or ask questions as we go through this interview because I can ask Kamaria any questions you all have. And so to start off, when did you begin expressing yourself creatively?
I would say probably like everyone else, like childhood. It's probably when you're the most creative. And I think definitely as you grow up, it's harder to hold on to that, maintain it, just living in the world. But being an early childhood educator and being around children, they definitely keep those creative juices flowing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Kids are inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you also work as a educator then, as well as an author?
I do. I used to have my own preschool,
Wow.
but right now, well, still kind of on a little hiatus since I had a baby. But I go to different preschools and I teach, do circle time. So I bring my guitar and I bring stories and do games with the kids.
Oh, nice.
So mostly in-home preschools.
Okay, very cool. Do you remember the moment that inspired you to become a writer?
I do. I was doing my student teaching at Mills College in probably 2006, and we were doing like a project on cities, and I remember I was like, oh, I wonder if there's any children's books about Oakland. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and there weren't. And so that kind of sparked it for me, although at the time I never thought like, oh, I want to be a writer, or I want to be a children's author, or I want to have a series, but it started from there.
Yeah, and that's a really great point because your book is, well, you have 3 books now, right?
Yes.
But this book, My City is Oakland, obviously inspired by Oakland, and we were lucky enough that you came out to our Children's Fairyland event, and it's also a sing-along, right?
It is.
Yeah, so it's very special, celebrating Oakland. There's actually a question from Instagram that we got from Ilania Gibson asking, how do you make time to write and make books with 2 young children?
I don't know if I'm really like making the time, but
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I joke with my friends sometimes that like something that normally took me an hour to do takes like 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
So it definitely takes time, but I just think, just being intentional about it and like actually carving out that time, and then being organized enough, like for my 5-year-old, to make sure he has his snacks and he's organized, and then for the baby that she's fed and she's happy, and then it's like, okay, now I can do something for myself. So it definitely takes time.
Definitely, because I'm curious, because, I've had the pleasure of hearing you read and sing My City is Oakland. When you were writing it, did you hear it more as a song, or were you wrote the words and then you turned it into a song?
So I wrote the words, and at first I thought it was kind of just like a poem. And then as I was thinking about the images that I wanted, because I am, I guess my most creative way of expressing myself is through music. So I heard it as a song, like after I kept, reading through it a few times.
Yeah. Okay. And what would you say is the hardest part of writing a book then?
I would say maybe just the follow through and keeping the
Yeah.
momentum going. Kind of like with any like good idea, like you're like, oh, this is great, and then you'll have the first few stanzas. And then like towards the end, especially for me, I tend to rhyme a lot. So then it's like, oh, like that doesn't fit, or you kind of get stuck. So making sure the book flows from beginning to end, sometimes that can be challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think a huge achievement that you've had is you not only got through those roadblocks and finished it from the thought to the end, but you also self-published, right?
I did, yes.
Could you talk a little bit about what that process is like?
So self-publishing, originally when I wrote the first book, I only had the one book. And so I did submit it to a few local publishing companies. But what I didn't know at the time is that typically if a company does pick you up, if you only have one project or one manuscript, they, not unless it's just so amazing, they probably won't pick you up. So they like to see longevity.
Right.
So if I was like presenting now with my whole series, I would like to think that maybe I would have gotten picked up by a company. Self-publishing. Also, the other thing that I learned is that authors and illustrators, they rarely meet, if they do at all. So I can't say, this is what I want my book to look like. So for me, because it was Oakland, I really wanted to make sure that it was diverse. You know, Oakland, that's the main thing that I love about Oakland is how diverse it is. So I wanted to make sure everyone was properly represented and that the landmarks were on point as well. So even though it is a lot of work and sometimes very overwhelming, but self-publishing, I'm glad that I took that route.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the city of Oakland here at Tandem, we're super thankful that you did persevere and get this book published because, like you were saying, I mean, it's so important for children to see themselves reflected. And I myself have done read-alouds of this book in Oakland classrooms, and the kids are just so excited when they find out, like, oh, this book is about our city. And then I'm like, guess what? Guess who wrote it? She's from Oakland too. So it's, the kids love it. And I didn't know that it was so difficult to get published unless you have a large body of work. I'm curious from your comments then, so did you get a chance to meet Steven Anderson, who did do the illustrations? Or, I mean, the illustrations are, in my opinion, great and very representative of Oakland.
So Steven Anderson, he and I went to high school together.
Oh, cool.
He's a little bit older than me, but his brother was in my class. And so going back to 2006, when I originally wrote this, you know, I was thinking of people that I knew who were illustrators. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask this person if he would want to do it or if he would want to do it. And probably in like a 10-year span from writing it to actually getting it published, I probably went through about 4 people who said or who started the project and then, you know, got busy or maybe you should find somebody else and it never worked. And then his brother Matthew, who was in my class, he had posted one day on Facebook like, oh, my brother just illustrated his first children's book. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I totally forgot that he could draw. I was like, can you ask your brother if he would want to help me? And after I saw like his first illustrations that he gave me, like I knew that it was meant to be. And so even though it was kind of a delayed process, I knew that it was perfect timing for he and I to sync up.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. It was the right time, but those ghosting illustrators in the beginning. Okay, so he's published or he's illustrated other books then as well.
He has for Grace Carroll.
Oh, okay.
And he does a lot of work with the Dragon School as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you mentioned it was 10 years, the process to write this book?
From writing it to actually getting it published, I got it published in the summer of 2016. So
wow. Okay. Yeah. That's such an accomplishment. And now you have 3 books.
Yes.
Do you want to maybe share your other 2 books? I mean, we've held up My City is Oakland, the first one.
So the second book in this series is Oakland Bird, and it's about the crazy pigeons in Oakland. If you've been around the lake or just walking down the street trying to eat or not trying to eat, you know how crazy these birds are. So it's kind of just a little funny book. And then also we have a little Oakland Bird pledge just for people to also think about how to keep our city nice and clean for our wildlife animals. And then the newest book, which just came out last week, The Gnomes of Oakland. So some people might not know that we have our own little community of Oakland gnomes, and not sure how long they've been here or where they came from exactly, but there's an anonymous artist who paints them and puts them on the bottom of utility poles. And so this is just kind of what if the gnomes came to life? What do they do in their own little world? And so just another cute little book to add to the collection.
Yeah, that's great. And I love how these are all celebrating Oakland as well. Do you have plans to write more books? Or are you going to take a little pause now that you've hit 3?
So there's actually 7 books in the series. They're
Oh,
actually
wow.
all written. I'm just waiting for Stephen and I to be able to, sync up
Okay.
again and to get to each of them. So for the Kids Love Oakland series, there are 4 more books.
Wow.
And each book actually has a song to go along with it. And so it's also just getting all the pieces and people together to actually record it. But the first song, the My City is Oakland theme song, it is available on iTunes.
Yeah, and it's a great song. It was really fun at Fairyland. We got the whole crowd sing. Well, you got the whole crowd singing it. That's awesome. I have a couple more questions for you from the Commodore Stockton School.
Okay.
Ansley asked, do you have a lot of books and do you read in your bed?
Hi,
From Ansley.
I do have a lot of books. I used to joke, saying that, when I grew up that, our living room could be a bookstore. Because yes, we have tons and tons of books. And even my baby, she's 8 months, her little bassinet next to the bed is full of books.
Yay.
And do I read in bed? I love to read in bed. I love to read in bed. And I actually have special books that I only keep next to the bed because I don't want them to get dirty or yucky. So I love reading in bed.
Nice. And we have one more question from Jaden, who also goes to the Commodore Stockton School. Jaden asked, how long does it take you to write a book?
Hi, Jaden. So normally how the process happens for me is that I'll say oh, this is a good idea. With the Oakland Bird book, I was at the lake with my friend and we had our kids with us and the birds were going crazy around us. They were landing on the kids' heads and trying to take our food, and it was funny and scary at the same time. And then that night, I couldn't sleep. So that's normally how it happens for me. I can't sleep at night. These words will pop into my head, and then I'll write them down, and then in the morning I'll say oh, that could be a book. And so the actual writing process doesn't take me very long, but just putting all the pieces together to actually have a book that probably takes the longest. So altogether, from probably when I start to when I end, it could take anywhere from 9 months to a year to actually get the book out.
Oh, okay. And then we have another question from Caitlin. Caitlin asked, what is your favorite book to read to your daughter?
Oh, hi, Caitlin. I think our favorite book to read to little Lisa Margot right now, she loves Please, Baby, Please. Whenever she sees the illustrations in that book, she lights up. She's looking at it really intensely. And then she also loves Freight Trains by Donald Cruz.
Yeah. Classics. That's great.
And her dad loves reading her Pajama Time.
Oh,
That's their favorite book together.
that's great. So, question for you. What do you think is the value of storytelling with young children as an author and a parent?
I just feel the value of storytelling is limitless. It can just affect your life in so many different ways. So for children who have been through trauma in any way, that can be a very soothing mechanism for them. Of course, you can learn from it. It can change your perspective on things that maybe just talking to someone, you weren't able to see things another way. It can just inspire you, and then from there, you can just touch one person and you never know where they'll take that inspiration from. So it's definitely the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. It's very powerful to share stories with children. And so how about one last question that we ask all of our authors at the end of our author interviews, which is at Tandem. Of course, we're a big fan of children's books. Do you have a favorite children's book?
Right now, I would say my favorite book that I love reading to my son is called Fortunately. And I feel so upset I can't think of who the author is right now. But he loves that book. And for him, it's really good because, he's in kindergarten, when you're young, everything is so intense and you're all about fairness. And so it's kind of just teaching him to be grateful, and that, you know, like things do happen, but now what can we do next? So I definitely love Fortunately right now. It's one of our favorite books.
Nice. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to see you and to get to connect and learn more about the amazing work that you're doing. I know you shared you have 3 books out.
Yes.
There's 7 coming, probably more. Can you just tell everybody, like, where can we learn more about you? How could we buy your books? If you have anything coming up that people should know about?
Yeah, so on Facebook, I'm under Like the Moon Press. On Instagram, I'm under Kids Love Oakland. You can buy the books on my website, which is www.kidsloveoakland.com. And then once you go on the website, there's a page that will take you to local stores in Oakland that carry the book. And then as far as what's coming up next, I will be at the Social Justice Children's Book Fair on June 1st. I should know the location, but I'm sorry I don't. I think it might be on Telegraph at 510 Make Believe. Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'll be next. Yes.
Where's it called? The Destiny Arts Center? No, that was the last one.
Yeah, it was there last time. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And then I just want to mention for our tandem people out there that our executive director, Molly, is moving into a new position. So if you'd like to send her any best wishes, we will have the link on our webpage. We're also doing a Father's Day video contest. So any father figures want to send us a really fun video of you doing something with your children. Could be reading a book, could be playing with a ball, sharing a laugh. Send it in to us and we will have some great prizes for the best Father's Day video. And you have until Father's Day to send those videos in because that is June 16th. And please watch our next author interview. It will be June 4th at 1:15 with Robert, the author of Furquan's First Flat Top.
Yes, we have that book.
Yes, it's a great one. And thanks again. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.